Welcome back to Real Estate with Mariah and Spence. Today we are sharing about 20-ish, we'll say, different hidden fees when it comes to buying a home. So if you're a first-time home buyer, you're going to want to listen in until the very end today. You're not going to want to miss anything on today's show. These are things that a lot of them you just don't think about. They're often overlooked or you don't really realize. So hopefully you grab some value today.
Absolutely. And I think this is wise to, if you find a fee, I might even hear a fee that I'm unaware of, write it down and double check though, because when you are in that escrow period, sometimes there's lenders that can take away some of these fees. That's why some of my clients go with certain lending. And then there's sometimes some fees we can take away at title too, pending on the transaction area and title agent. So all of these are flexible, but for the most part, these are all realistic fees we do see in real estate transactions that ultimately you will want to set aside money in the transaction, or if you're a seller, be prepared to take it out of the overall sales price so you're not paying anything actually out of pocket.
Yes, that's good. And before we get into it, if you're listening to this and you have a friend or a family member that comes into your mind that either wants to be a homeowner soon or they're currently in the home buying process, go ahead and do them a favor and share this video with them. Hopefully that they can grab some value from this as well. And if you are thinking about buying or selling real estate anywhere in Oregon, reach out. We'd love to help you. And if you're listening to this and you're thinking about buying real estate outside of the state of Oregon, contact us. We'd love to set you up with a solid realtor in your area. Okay, so first off, so the first few are ones that are a little more known, and then we'll get into some that are a little more like, oh, I just didn't calculate that into my savings for buying a home. So the first one is, of course, closing costs. Closing costs are the fee you'll have to pay at your home closing when the title of the property is transferred from the seller to you, and you'll typically be paying between 2 and 5% of the purchase price of the home for closing costs.
Awesome, yeah. And that sounds about accurate. Yeah, 2% of the home's sales price.
And that's something, of course, your lender will tell you about this. So that's not like one of the necessarily more hidden ones, but it is important to take into account. And go ahead.
Well, there are some loan programs, especially lending institutions are stepping up nowadays, especially with these higher sales prices, to help first-time home buyers, especially pay for these closing costs. There are even, I've dealt with conventional loans that are even helping fill in with closing costs, which was pretty unheard of to hear programs like that. So for what I hear of, that's the biggest obstacle, I would say, in a lot of real estate transactions, especially with home buyers, is they got to come up with their down payment. On top of that, they need an extra $8,000, $9,000, sometimes $12,000 for their closing costs, depending on the time of the year. That's a lot of cash to just come up with. So take benefit and ask the resources, like I was mentioning earlier, how can they help you? What loan program is best and beneficial for you to get your home purchased?
And if you absolutely do not have any way, you just don't have the funds for closing costs, we can ask for it in the offer. So this is something we can ask the seller to pay for. And how that would work is it would come out of the sale of the home at closing for them. So basically, say your closing costs are $10,000, for example, the seller would be making $10,000 less. So there's ways we can raise the asking price by that amount to kind of make up for it a little bit and make your offer not as unappealing to them. So there's ways we can go around it, but generally you're going to want to save for those closing costs.
Right now we are seeing a market, by the way, seeing a market where buyers are able to ask for a little bit more within their offers, whether that's saving room for negotiations and repair or initially getting an accepted offer and then saving rooms for closing costs during the inspection period. It's just however we can play that. But we got to have a full understanding and transparency. The seller's not obligated to pay any of these fees nor negotiate repairs for you. This is just an ask, so it doesn't ever hurt to ask situation, and that's how I always state it with my clients.
Absolutely. Okay, this next one is property tax. This is going to vary depending on your area, the side of town. I know where we're at, for example, you could be looking at a home in South Salem and it is the same exact price as another home that's identical to it over in North Salem, say just outside of county limits out there. And you're going to have a drastically different monthly payment because the property taxes in South Salem are so much higher than property taxes on, in other areas. And that's just to give example of like area wise, just to say that your property taxes are something you're definitely going to want to take into account because one home you're looking at in a certain area, you might not be able to afford the same home price in another area because the property taxes are just going to make your payment go up.
Yeah, you're right about that. And just keep in mind, in the city limits, just configure that. City limits, your property taxes are always going to be more because you're in the city. But if you're more in the county, those rural areas, your property taxes are by far lower. And that will, affect your monthly payment. And at the end of the year, sometimes people don't combine their mortgage with property taxes. And so you'll pay one big lump sum check at the end of the year. So it just depends on how you do your financing.
Yeah, it could be added to your monthly payment, like I said, so that it's just that fee you pay every month with your mortgage, or you could pay it all at once. It just depends on how you prefer to do things. Next is homeowners insurance. Before your lender will let you take out your mortgage, you'll need to provide proof of homeowners insurance, which covers losses and damages to the home. For example, a tree limb falling on your roof. And in many cases, when you pay your mortgage bill, you'll be paying for this as well. So.
This is a really good one because I remember when we were first buying our first home, I had no idea who to even work with or go to when it comes to homeowners insurance. I just kind of went with my preferred guy by my lender, and that's who I used for our next two purchases. But then I finally did some homeowner insurance shopping, found the best rate, what was the best package plan for me and my circumstances, because everybody's family is different. Some people own certain things, some people prioritize other things, some people never have people in their house, so they don't really care about liability. There's all these factors, and so that has been a place that I just incorporated to our team over the last year and a half, is a nice home or insurer that's going to get you a good rate, a good quote, and that's reliable because he also does financial advice as well.
That's good. Okay, mortgage insurance. Maybe you don't have 20% to put down towards your down payment. That doesn't have to stop you from buying a home, but what that does mean is that you'll likely need to take out mortgage insurance, also called PMI, so you may have heard that term before, which many lenders require to offset their risk. You'll see this as a line item in your closing costs. So that's something to be aware of.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you're right. Just think about it. If you're not putting 20% down on a property, so you're using an FHA loan or a conventional 5%, you still have mortgage insurance. And, ultimately that is an insurance cost, is an added cost monthly, and that's going to make your mortgage go up just a little bit. But it doesn't wreck you. Most clients are in these same positions, so don't think you're the only one if you don't have 20% down, because right now 20% down on $400,000 is what?
Kidding.
2, 4, 6, 8. Is that 80 grand? Yeah,
Something like that.
It's about 80 grand.
Yeah.
So the average sales price here in Salem is 436, 440s. So not everybody can support themselves with 20% down on a home purchase, especially with a first-time home buyer. And those are the type of questions I get asked with first-time home buyers. Spence, how much do other people generally put down on their home? And that's a really hard question to answer because everybody's different. Yeah. What I relate it to, how much is your monthly payment going to be that you can afford based off of what you have? Let's first check in with the lender and see if that's even suitable this time for you. Because a lot of people are pre-qualified for like $600,000, $650,000, but their mortgage that they're going to be paying monthly is just going to be so astronomically high because they don't have that amount down. And then with this little spike of interest rates, they're just not super comfortable with that high of a mortgage right now.
Right. And then there is other times when putting more down doesn't change your monthly payment enough to make it like you could be putting like so much more cash down and then your payment only drops like $50 a month. Is it really, is that really the best use of your cash? So you just got to do what's best for you.
Yeah.
Okay, next is driveway. Depending on its age and material you could find, there might be a cost to make repairs done to your driveway. And this is something that it's not, it's like a hidden fee to be aware of. It's not something that everyone is going to need to deal with, but it could come up. It could be a thing.
Well, where I would say that could be a cost, especially if you're the seller trying to sell a property right now, that would be a fee, is if your driveway or sidewalks are deteriorated, now it's affecting the public and then the city, so now it's a liability.
Right.
Sometimes those repairs are necessary before sale is finalized. So that to me would be a fee on the seller's side or the buyer's side if seller's not willing to do it and you really want this house and it's negotiated.
Yeah. Next is your lawn. So this is something, are you going to pay someone to, take care of it? Or are you going to do it yourself? Well, if you're going to mow it yourself or take care of it, there's more to do than just mowing sometimes. Then that's great, but that is an expense. An expense that you're going to need to be aware of. If you're moving from an apartment, you don't have all the equipment needed to take care of your lawn. So that's something you probably aren't really thinking about, but that's something you'll have to purchase if you're going to be taking care of it yourself, is all that equipment. And then of course, if your home has sprinkler systems, or if you decide to install one, there's the cost of the sprinkler system, which I would say very worth it to install. But then of course there's the cost of the monthly,
water bill too.
Yeah, well,
you have a water bill.
Lots of words right now. Yeah, monthly water bill. So that goes up too. So those are just a couple little things to keep in mind. Okay, next is if you live somewhere where this is applicable, leaf and snow removal. Where we're at, that's not like a huge thing. It's definitely not somewhere but there are a lot of states and areas where you got to think about that. Yeah. Like snow removal is a real thing in some places. Trash in some cities and towns, you'll definitely have to pay your trash fee.
Yeah, you have a garbage fee.
Curb appeal. Do you love the way your new house looks from the street? Great, but you still have to pay to keep it looking that way. You might have annual flowers painted, which means each season you'll have to swap them out or add more mulch. So there's just little things like that to think about. Yeah. Next is deck, patio, or pool. Deck problems can be very expensive. Like very expensive. So
cost of lumber is so high right now.
Yeah.
Contractor work per hour, it's been unreal.
And it's only a matter of time. If you have a deck, which I love a good deck, don't get me wrong. Love a good deck, something I very much appreciate in a home. But it is a matter of time before you're going to have to fix something because they don't last forever. Home exterior. The home looks good now, but how long ago was it painted? A good, properly done paint job should last you about 5 to 7 years for wood and 10 for stucco. If you have vinyl siding, you don't necessarily have to worry about paint, but you might want to have the siding power washed every few years. So that's something to keep in mind. Yeah. Another thing, I'm just kind of going down the list here because these are like, don't really have
These
much to elaborate on.
Like this is what I would be thinking about, like when I'm under contract during the inspection period. If these are actual material items like the siding and the mulch and the yard work, those type of things will cost you, just not up front, but just living expense wise. That's a monthly, that's a quarterly, a yearly expense you will be making every year.
Right. So if you're a budgety type person, then get your pen and paper out now. These are the things you're going to want to be writing down. Okay. Pest control. That could be a thing.
Big one nowadays.
Especially in certain areas, like areas where there's cockroaches, you're going to want to pest control that. Yeah. Tree care. It doesn't matter if the tree is planted on your property or not. If it hangs over your property, you're responsible for the maintenance of it. The next thing is appliances. So I think a lot of times buyers just assume that appliances are going to be in the home, but sellers a lot of times choose to take their appliances with them, or if they don't take them, they've probably been there for a little bit. They could have been there for a few years. You're going to have issues. Our fridge was here when we moved in and our ice maker doesn't work. We got to fix the ice maker. So like there's
the
things,
ice and water. I think it's just a line, but
but there's little things. If you're either going to buy new ones because the seller's taking them, or if they leave them there, then you're going to probably do some maintenance at some point. Furniture, if you're especially something to think about, if you're moving from an apartment to a home, your space is going to be larger than your last place you were living in, and you'll need, furniture to put in it. Another thing often overlooked that can add up a little bit is window coverings, and then of course light sliding too. But window coverings is
those get spendy.
They can get spendy.
Budget blinds, those type of things.
Yeah.
They're expensive.
Yeah,
they really are.
Yeah.
Now you can always go in and get your blinds and curtains at your decor stores.
Yeah.
But it just depends on you.
And there are times when the sellers will leave the blinds, but that's not always going to be the case. Utilities. If you're moving from an apartment where your utilities are included in your monthly rent, that's a new expense.
Yeah, that could definitely be an eye-opener, shocker, of an expense on top of your mortgage.
Yeah.
You're just kind of unaware of.
Yeah. This next one, not everyone has these, but if you want to have one, security system is another expense to take into mind. Yeah. And then you're going to need some home tools, because when you are a homeowner, things are going to happen and you're going to want to have some tools on hand to fix them, unless you're just, totally uninterested, and then you'll have to have the money to pay someone. And so you'll have to either way calculate for that. And then last but not least is emergency costs. Things will break: a water pipe, the AC, your water heater, whether you need to just repair it or full on replace it, there's a cost associated. So having some sort of a emergency fund, because it seems like these things tend to happen when it's like the least convenient time, and when you own a home, there's just constant things. And it's not something I'm saying is like a big complaint, because home ownership is so worth it still, but there's definitely,
Yeah, and the thing is, though, don't look at these fixes or items like a water heater, furnace, or an AC that needs to be serviced as something that's inconvenience and cool. You're out of pocket right now, but look at it as the investment purpose, because you can keep these receipts. It is tax deductible as a write-off at closing for you as a seller, and you can use these to get more money back, but ultimately sell your home at a higher value, which is why we enter home ownership in the end. We're very happy in the home, for a little while, 5, 10, maybe even 20 years, you raise your family, but there might be another option for you elsewhere in the future. So don't think of all these expenses that are up front or just maintenance that you do through the years as a waste. They're absolutely not a waste.
That is a great point, Spencer. I would suggest if you're a newer homeowner, even if you're not planning on leaving the home for another 10 years, have a notebook set aside and write down everything that you have done whenever something, does happen that you need replaced or repaired. Write it down, keep the receipts, write the date, keep it all together, because when we, as real estate agents, list a property and we say, or when we are showing a house and we show the buyer and you can see on the listing, like, water heater updated this year, this was updated this year, new HVAC system, like all these things. It's really appealing to a buyer, and it's assuring to know, even if it wasn't just yesterday. A lot of them have a good lifeline, so they know if it was done like 5 years ago, it's a good sign. So just keep a track of those things for sure.
Yeah, I'd say it definitely benefits you in the long run. And like you said, the real estate professional you hire to help you get your home sold, and even being the purchaser on the buyer side, it's nice to have like that list of checklists, maybe that's like you don't have to do those type of repairs initially when you first move in. So it's assuring.
I'm glad you brought that up. That's a great point. Well, thank you for tuning in this week. If you watched this video all the way through, go ahead and hit the thumbs up button and send us your real estate questions. We'll be sure to get to them on a future episode. And also, I have to say, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell, because we do come on here every week and share all of our real estate tips. And we'll see you guys next week.